I just dropped my kids off to school. I made their lunch this morning, and it got me thinking about all of those delicious snacks that my mom used to pack, like the treats, like a Hostess cupcake or a Twinkie or like those little Debbie cakes. God, I so miss them. And I used to eat a lot of them when I was pregnant too, which is probably why I gained a lot of weight when I was pregnant. But the Hostess cupcakes, that's what I would have for lunch, and like some Doritos. It was so healthy back then. I really, really miss that, especially like the Hostess cupcake with the chocolate on top, and you bite into it and it has that marshmallow cream center, and the Twinkie too. So I'm like, why can't I just make a keto version? And I know that there's recipes out there, but I don't like making a huge bunch of stuff. Like I want something that's like single serve, mostly because like I don't want to be tempted by having like a bunch of different treats around, but also it gets tiring after like a day or two and you're just like, nah, I don't really want any more. So I don't really want to waste all those ingredients. So I thought, let's make a single serve Keto Hostess cupcake and a Twinkie. Oh, and I'm going to tell you guys what the macros are like. So we're going to go over that at the end, and then I'll give you some tips too on how to make these extra authentic and delicious. We're going to start with my favorite, which is the Hostess cupcake. Now, this is going to make 2 cupcakes, so one for you and one to share, or one for you and one for you later if you don't want to share. And this recipe can be made in the microwave or in the oven. I'm going to show you the oven version, but I'll have instructions on my website, KetoFocus.com, if you want to make this in the microwave, which is done a lot quicker. That's really good if you are craving chocolate now. We're going to start by adding 3 tablespoons of almond flour to a small bowl, along with 1 tablespoon of monk fruit sweetener, or you could use a sweetener of your choice, and 1 tablespoon of unsweetened cocoa powder. Make sure you get the 100% unsweetened cocoa powder because it will have the less carbs in it. You'll also need a 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder and a pinch of salt. Mix that together until everything's combined, and now we're gonna add in some wet ingredients. You're gonna need 1 tablespoon of butter that's melted, 1 tablespoon of heavy cream, and crack in 1 egg. Mix that together until it's combined. Next, we're gonna pour this into our muffin tin. So I am using a large muffin tin. If you have one that's smaller cavities, that's fine too. I'm only gonna be using 2 of these cavities to make these, but that's fine because it's gonna make cleanup so easy. Make sure you grease the inside. I'm using some avocado spray here, and then equally pour in your batter into each cavity. We're gonna bake this in a 325-degree oven for around 15 to 17 minutes. You'll know it's done because when you push down on it, it kind of sponges back, so that means it's ready. Pull it out and just kind of let it cool. I like to loosen it around the edges with a butter knife just so it doesn't stick to the edges of it. And then once it's cool and you can get it to come out, then take out your cupcakes. So while our cupcakes are cooling, let's make our creamy marshmallow filling. Now this is a little tricky. So if you want to make this as simple as possible, then just go ahead and go with getting some whipped cream, maybe like a sugar-free canned whipped cream, and just squirting that inside if you want to do that. But I really wanted that authentic marshmallow cream flavor that goes inside a Hostess cupcake. So I'm going to be taking some sugar-free marshmallows, and I'll have these linked down below on where you can purchase these. And I'm going to melt them in the microwave for around 10 seconds. You just want to get them melted. And I'm going to add in 1 teaspoon of butter, mix that until it's combined. And then I'm actually going to take some of that sugar-free whipped cream that you can get in the can. You don't have to use this if you don't want to. You could use like regular heavy cream if you wanted to. But I like to use this because I feel like it already gives it kind of like that puffy appearance, and just gently fold that in. We're gonna set that aside while we carve out our little centers of our cupcakes, because this is where our cream has to go. So just carve it out with, maybe if you have like some sort of tool. I tried using like a cannoli mold, and that really didn't work very well. So then I just took a spoon and just kind of carved in the inside. I like a lot of cream inside mine, so I carved a larger cavity. And then we're just gonna spoon our marshmallow cream mixture inside. You can either just leave it like this, or you can take some of the parts that you carved out and place it back on top, but it will get covered when we put down our sugar-free chocolate ganache, which is the next step. So to make that, I have 1 tablespoon of sugar-free chocolate chips in here, and I'll have mine linked down below for you guys. I use the Chalk Zero brand. You can save 10% off your order when you use my code KetoFocus at checkout. You want to melt that down in the microwave at 30-second intervals, stirring in between until it's completely melted. And then I'm going to add in a teaspoon of heavy cream. This will make it more of a ganache so that it hardens. Stir that until it's mixed, and then we're just going to lightly spoon it on top of your cupcake. The next step is to make that beautiful white little swirl that goes across the top of your Hostess cupcake. To make this, we're gonna add 1 tablespoon of powdered sweetener. I'm gonna be using powdered swerve, but you could use monk fruit too if you wanted to, like a monk fruit blend. And then we're gonna add in 1 teaspoon of heavy cream. Now it kind of depends, like you might need a little bit more heavy cream. You just kind of want to get like a thicker icing consistency. You don't want it to be too thin because then it's going to run around. So you might have to play with either adding more cream or more powdered sweetener. So mine, I needed around like 1.5 teaspoons of heavy cream, but then I ended up having to add more powder. So just get it to like a nice thick frosting consistency. Now, once your chocolate ganache on your Keto Hostess cupcake has kind of set a little bit, now we're gonna take a piping bag and add in our white frosting and then gently pipe those little swirls on top. If you want your chocolate to set and look like it does when you take out a Hostess cupcake from the package, just pop it in the refrigerator or the freezer, and that top ganache layer will set and harden. These turned out so good. The cake is chocolatey and spongy, and the inside layer of that marshmallow cream is so creamy and delicious, and it pairs perfectly with the chocolate. And that chocolate ganache, that top layer, so good, you guys. I am so happy how these turned out. Let's move on to the Twinkies first, and then I'll go over the macros for both of them at the end. The Twinkie. Now this is gonna be a similar recipe, but a little bit different on the ingredients because of course we're not adding chocolate. We will be making 2 Twinkies, once again, one for you later, or one to share if you're in the giving spirit. To make the Twinkie, we're gonna start by adding 1/4 cup of almond flour to a small bowl. You'll also need 1 teaspoon of coconut flour and 2 teaspoons of a sweetener of your choice. I'm gonna be using a monk fruit blend. And then you'll also need 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder and a pinch of salt. Mix that together until it's combined, and then we'll add in our wet ingredients. Crack in 1 egg. And then we're also gonna add in 1 teaspoon of sour cream. Trust me on this adds really good flavor to your white cake. And then you'll also need 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla. Mix that together until everything's combined, and then we're gonna add it to our pan. So for this recipe, I don't really have a microwave option for you guys, just because I don't really know if there's a silicone mold out there that you could use to make like a Twinkie shape. So I went with like the whole baking method, and this is the pan I used. I'll have it linked down below. There's a Twinkie in there already. So I'll have this linked down below for you guys on where you can purchase this. You could also probably just maybe even make like a roll cake and lay it out on a baking tray and then roll it. I don't really know how well it's gonna roll because I've never tried that, but that's an option. Or you could just put it in like a little mini loaf pan and it will be square instead of a Twinkie shape. So same flavor, just looks a little strange. So once again, you just wanna spray some cooking spray into 2 cavities and then equally fill the cavities with some batter. We're gonna bake this in a 325-degree oven for around 15 to 17 minutes, just until it's set. And then you're gonna pop these out and they'll look like this. And while these are cooling, we'll move on to our creamy marshmallow center. Now the recipe is pretty much gonna be the same that we used for the Keto Hostess cupcakes. We're gonna be using those sugar-free marshmallows again, along with some butter. And then I'm gonna add just a little bit more of the whipped cream here in this recipe. Once again, just use heavy cream if you want to. I just really want it like creamy and thick consistency rather than a runny one. It's just to let it set, because as it sits a little bit, bit, that marshmallow will start to solidify again. So it's just, you gotta have to play with it and see, okay, this is the perfect consistency. Let's insert this sucker now. Now for injecting our cream, typically when you see people do this either with a recipe, or I think this is how Twinkie does it too, Hostess does it, they do 3 little holes in the like one in the center and 2 in the ends to inject the cream. So that's what I'm gonna do here. You could either maybe go on the side and inject it, or just kind of carve out the middle and squirt it all in. Whichever way you wanna do it is fine. I'm gonna be using this nifty injector that came with my Twinkie pan set, but feel free just to use like a piping bag with a tip. That will work too. Insert that in. You can let these set for just a little bit just to have that marshmallow cream solidify too, and they are perfect. Bite into them and they'll be at this nice creamy center. Once again, if you just wanted to use like a canned whipped cream and just insert that in, go ahead and do that. That's a lot easier. I'm so surprised at how these turned out. Like, it looks like a freaking Twinkie. It smells like a Twinkie. It tastes like a Twinkie. That marshmallow cream inside is super good. I actually kind of wish I had some more marshmallow cream in here. I think maybe next time I'm gonna carve out the whole center and add more in there just because that's my favorite part. But let's go over the macros to see how keto these are, to see if we can eat these on a daily basis, or is it just kind of like a one-time thing when you're craving like Hostess Twinkie or cupcake. So let's look at that now. For our Hostess cupcakes, and remember this makes 2 Hostess cupcakes, so I'm just gonna say 1 cupcake is 1 serving. So 1 serving on the Hostess, the Keto Hostess cupcakes, is 241 calories, 22.5 grams of fat, 6.3 grams of protein. There's 7.8 total carbs, but the net carbs per cupcake is only 2.2 net carbs. That's fabulous. The Twinkie, guys, is even better. So once again, it makes 2 servings because there's 2 Twinkies. There's 227 calories per Twinkie, 20.3 grams of fat, 6.7 protein. The total carbs is only 3.8 grams of total carbs, and net carbs is being only 1.9 grams of net carbs. That is so good. Like, you could really probably have 2 of these if you wanted to.